Welcome to this video, everyone. Today, we're re-stepping into a fascinating world of human psychology, one that's going to change how you see every interaction you have. We're talking about how to make someone obsessed with you. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I've heard tips about being likable or charming before, but this is different. This isn't just about getting someone to smile at you or enjoy your company for a fleeting moment. It's about creating a connection so deep that they can't stop thinking about you, almost like an emotional pull they can't resist. Visual cue. Show a split screen, one side with a casual thumbs up for liking, the other with a glowing heart and thought bubbles for obsession. Here is the foundation of it all. Every single human being on this planet has 4 psychological weak points. That's right, every one of us, from your best friend to the stranger at the coffee shop. And in 99% of people, at least one of these weak points is significantly stronger than the others, like a hidden button waiting to be pressed. Visual cue. Display a human silhouette with 4 glowing spots labeled weak points, zooming in on one pulsing brighter. You don't need a PhD in psychology to figure this out. You just need to know where to look and what to do when you find it. Think about those people in your life who seem to effortlessly draw others in. Maybe it's that coworker everyone flocks to, or that friend who always leaves a lasting impression. It's not luck or charisma alone, it's a science. They're tapping into these weak points, whether they realize it or not. Over the next few chapters, I'm going to break this down step by step, what these weak points are, how to spot them in everyday conversations, and how to use them to build influence that lasts. Visual cue. Show a roadmap graphic with 6 chapter titles fading in one by one. This isn't about manipulation in a shady way. It's about understanding people on a level most never bother to explore. By the end, you'll see social dynamics in a whole new light. So, are you ready to unlock this power? Let's dive in. Okay, now that you're on board, let's get practical. The first skill you need is spotting these psychological weak points, and the secret lies in something I call conversation spikes. Imagine human behavior as a straight line. It's steady, predictable, with little ups and downs as emotions shift. But every now and then, something happens, a spike. Visual cue. Show a line graph with gentle waves, then a sharp spike labeled emotional spike, with an arrow pointing to it. That's when someone's reaction jumps out of the ordinary. It's your golden ticket to understanding what makes them tick. Here's how it works in real life. You're chatting with someone, maybe asking, "What did you do this weekend?" They shrug and say, "Oh, not much, just chilled. No big deal," right? But then you casually toss out, "Ever tried running or something active?" Suddenly, their face lights up and they go, "Actually, I ran 6 miles on Saturday. It was tough, but I did it." That's a spike. Their energy shifted, their voice got louder. Maybe they even leaned in. Visual cue, split screen reenactment, calm response on one side, excited running talk on the other. That's your sign you've brushed against one of their weak points. Why does this matter? Because these spikes reveal what someone cares about deeply or what they're sensitive about. It could be pride, fear, a need for approval. The trick is to pay attention. Maybe you mention a work project, and they get defensive saying, "I'm working on it." Okay, that's a spike too, just a negative one. Visual cue. Add a second spike on the graph, this time downward, labeled defensive spike. Over time, you'll get better at noticing these tone changes, body language, even repeated words. Let me give you another example. I once asked a friend, "You into cooking?" He said, "Yeah, it's fine," but when I said, "Ever made something crazy?" He launched into a 10-minute story about his kitchen disasters. Spike I'd hit something he was passionate about. Visual cue. Show a cartoon chef with a collapsed, laughing your mission. Start watching for these in your next conversation. They're the clues to everything we'll cover next. Let's keep going. Let's dive into the first weak point. The thirst for validation. We all enjoy a compliment now and then, it's human nature. But some people, they live for it. These are the validation seekers, and their weak point is a goldmine if you know how to work it. You'll spot them because they're always testing the waters, looking for your approval. Maybe they say, "I worked really hard on this," or straight up ask, "What do you think of my new haircut?" Visual cue. Cartoon of someone fishing with a net labeled approval, pulling up a question mark. Now, here's where most people mess up. They go for direct praise. Imagine they tell you, "I ran 6 miles this weekend." You say, "Wow, that's incredible. You're so fit. Sounds nice." Right? Problem is, it's too obvious. It lands. They smile, but the effect fades fast, like a sugar rush. Visual cue. Show a bar graph of praise, impact spiking, then crashing. The real magic. Indirect praise. It's subtle, it's sneaky, and it sticks. Try this instead. They say, "I ran 6 miles. You don't react, stay silent. Maybe sip your coffee." Visual cue, reenactment of silence with a clock ticking for 3 seconds. They might get antsy and ask, "What? You don't think that's a lot?" Then you drop this: "The other day, Henry and I were talking about you. We were debating if you could run 6 miles without stopping. I guess you proved us wrong." Boom. 2 things happen. First, they feel validated because you've acknowledged 6 miles is impressive without saying it outright. Second, They're flattered you and someone else were discussing them. It makes them feel important. Visual cue. Thought bubble over their head. They talked about me. With a glowing smile, I've used this myself. A coworker once bragged about a presentation. I didn't say great job. Instead, I said, I overheard someone in the break room saying your slides were the best they'd seen. She beamed all day and kept checking in with me after. That's the who can direct praise plants a seed they can't ignore. Visual cue. Show a seedling growing into a heart shape. Try it this week. You'll see them light up and come back for more. Next up is weak point number 2. Fear of failure. This one's huge for anyone chasing a big dream. Think getting into a competitive school, nailing a tough job interview, or even auditioning for a band. These folks carry a weight of, what if I screw up? When they open up, like saying, I'm freaking out about this interview tomorrow, your instinct might be to jump in with, oh, don't worry, just practice your answers. You'll be fine. But here's the catch that rarely works. Visual cue. Split screen, one side with someone giving cheery advice, the other with a stressed listener rolling their eyes. It feels dismissive, and they pull away. The better play. Reassurance through storytelling. Let's break it down. They say, I'm scared I'll bomb this interview. Don't fix it, just listen, nod, let them vent. Then, when they're done, try this. I get it. Interviews are brutal. I had a buddy who was in the same spot, terrified he'd freeze up, but he figured out that preparing a couple of stories about his past wins made him stand out. Guess what? He got the offer. Visual cue. Mini, storyboard, nervous friend prepping, then smiling with a contract. Why does this hit different? It is not advice telling them what to do it. It's a story showing it as possible. It plants hope without stepping on their feelings. I've seen this work wonders. A friend once told me, I'm never going to finish this project on time. Instead of saying, just work harder, I said, my cousin had a deadline like that once. She broke it into chunks, and not only did she finish, her boss praised her focus. She perked up, tried it, and later thanked me. Visual cue. Show a progress bar filling up with a thumbs up emoji. The formula's simple. Listen first, then offer a real example of overcoming the same fear. It's like bait that hooks there. Trust they feel understood, not judged. Soon they'll seek you out whenever they're stressed. Give it a shot. Next time someone's panicking, you'll be their go-to comfort zone. Now we're at weak point 3. Psychological trauma. This is a big one, and it comes in all shapes and size. It's way too many to cover in one video. So let's zoom in on something common, especially for young guys. Rejection by a woman. Picture this, a friend says, I asked her out last week, and she shot me down. I feel like such a failure. Your gut might say, hey, no big deal. Plenty of fish in the sea. But hold up, that's too shallow. It brushes off their pain, and they'll tune you out. Visual cue cartoon of a guy sulking, with no big deal words fading uselessly. Here's the smarter move. Reframe it with a story. First, listen, let them spill it all. Then say, man, rejection stings. No doubt. I knew a guy who went through the same thing. He asked someone out, got a hard no, and felt awful, but he later realized it wasn't about him. It just wasn't the right fit. That clarity led him to someone amazing down the road. Visual cue. Transition from a sad guy to him smiling with a new partner. This doesn't just cheer them up, it shifts their perspective. It's not your loser. It's this was a step to something better. I've used this myself. A buddy once crashed after a girl ghosted him. I didn't say, move on. I said, my roommate had a girl ditch him too. But he took it as a chance to focus on himself, ended up fitter and happier than ever. He nodded, started hitting the gym, and later said I'd helped him turn it around. Visual cue. Before, after shots of a guy lifting weights. This works for any trauma, lost a job, failed a test, just swap the story. The key, show them their pain has a purpose. They'll start leaning on you as their emotional rock. Ladies, this applies to you too. Think of a time you felt crushed and adapt it. It's universal. Alright, let's wrap this up with the big payoff. The addiction principle. This is where it all clicks. When you nail someone a sweet point like that, indirect praise for validation or a story for their fears, it's not just a one-off win. It's like giving them a psychological drug. Visual cue. Brain graphic with a colorful burst labeled emotional hit, pulsing briefly. They get this rush, excitement, relief, whatever fits, and it feels amazing. But here's the kicker. Like any drug, that high wears off. Their brain resets, and soon they're craving more of that feeling. And guess what? They tie that craving to you. Let's say you used indirect praise. Henry and I were debating your 6-mile run. They loved it, felt on top of the world. A few days later, they see you and casually mention, oh, I ran again this weekend. They're fishing for another hit. Visual cue. Show a looping arrow from you to them labeled craving, with a subtle hook icon. Or maybe you reassured their fear of failure with a story. Next time they're stressed, they'll vent to you again, hoping for that same comfort. It's automatic. They don't even realize why they're drawn back. I've seen this play out. I once told a friend, people were raving about your party last week. A week later, she was asking me to hang out, dropping hints about her next event. It's not random she associated that boost with me. Visual cue. Party scene fading to a calendar with her circling a date. This is powerful, so use it with care. Hit their weak points consistently, and they'll keep coming back, almost addicted to your presence. Plus, here's a bonus. Once you get this, you'll spot when someone's trying it on you, like that coworker who always flatters you. This is your ultimate social superpower. Master it, and you'll shape connections like never before. What do you think? Ready to test it out? That's it for today. We've cracked the code of making people obsessed with you. Want more of this social skills series? Tell me in the comments. I'm Dark Needle. Subscribe, check my last video, or hit the playlist. See you next time.